Are you an OU student living off campus or searching for your first apartment or house? If so, there are some tips and tricks the government channel thinks you should know. An organization that aims to specifically help students is Ohio University's Division of Student Affairs Off-Campus Living Center. Their office is located on the 3rd floor of Baker Center at Ohio University. They aim to help students transition from on-campus living to off-campus living, as well as solve any issues that may arise. Barbara Harisson, Assistant Director of Community Engagement, shared with us some tips on how to save money while living off campus and how to throw a successful party in your house or apartment.
Yeah, so we here in the Community Engagement office help students that live off campus to try to help them understand how to acclimate to the community and be a part of the community in a positive way. And a big part of that is trying to help them avoid problems during their off-campus parties. So we often talk with students about the importance of, first of all, knowing who's in your house and not just sort of like opening the door for anyone to come in. Because obviously that could lead to lots of problems, but also really to be mindful of, who's consuming alcohol. If you do have friends come in, it's important that they be of age, because as a party host, you really could be held accountable in the state of Ohio for providing alcohol to underage folks. So certainly that's something we want students to avoid. And then some other really big concerns have to do with trash and recycling. During parties, a lot of times, if there are a lot of cans and bottles and things, it can build up around the property, and that is often a reason that either the Athens police or the code enforcement folks end up giving students tickets and fining them for violations. So that's an easy fix, right? To try to think about ways that you can have a recycling area, a trash area that's clearly marked, to just really try to ask your guests to do that so that you don't get in trouble. And then another big issue is public urination, and also students sort of walking off the property with a can, a bottle, a cup. That can also really lead to problems. So those are just some immediate things that we try to talk with students about. Well, we really do try to help students think ahead of time before they've ever signed their lease about budgeting for those things, and trying to find out ahead of time what are the general costs per month for your property. And you can find that information out through the landlord. If you get a chance to also talk to the current tenants, you can ask them. So there's a lot of ways that you can sort of get ahead of the game, but certainly then, when you actually move in, it's important, first of all, to talk with your roommates, make sure you have a plan for how you're going to split up those costs and who's going to be responsible for paying them. A lot of times, problems occur when those conversations haven't happened. Maybe somebody forgets to pay the bill and then the water gets shut off. And so there's certainly a lot of ways ahead of time to plan ahead so that you don't get into those kind of pitfalls. And so that's really important. But budgeting overall is probably one of the biggest barriers for students when they first move off, because perhaps they've never had to be responsible for their own house and their own budget, making their own food and that kind of thing. So it's a learning curve, but it's also an exciting time for many young folks to be able to really branch out and start their life in that way. So we just try to provide different tips, different ideas about how to live on a tight budget, because most students don't have a lot of extra money when they move off campus. And so we have community ambassadors actually that talk with students and do outreach programs to try to help. So we have been really fortunate to partner with Upgrade Ohio, which is a local nonprofit that focuses on helping most folks in Southeast Ohio live sustainably and in an energy efficient way. So through the Smart Renter program with Upgrade Athens, we've been able to send out emails periodically. We also try to publish them on social media that are just tips about how to avoid problems. And we also do them in a way that it really follows the calendar of the year. So we send them out, like actually we'll be starting in early August, sending out emails to talk about moving in for the first time, making sure that you take stock of what your apartment looks like and make a record of that, whether that be a video is probably the most effective, and then documenting that. And then also making sure that you know how to contact your landlord. And those types of things. And then throughout the year, these Smart Renter emails just sort of follow the logical year. So when we get close to Halloween, we'll talk a lot about being sure, again, that you have a safe party if you're having a party, but also that you secure your property, because a lot of times students have things stolen because houses are left open, and it's just kind of a situation where people can come in. And so we send these out throughout the year, and we hope that that really helps students sort of think through things again, just to get ahead of the game.
We put together some tips here at the Government Channel that may also come in handy when moving into your first off-campus house. The best time to look for housing is 9 to 12 months before the start of the upcoming school year. Understand how much rent will cost each month before you move in. There should be limitations as to how much and how often your landlord can raise your rent. Your landlord must give a notice before entering your apartment or house unless there is an emergency. Your landlord is not obligated to let you have pets. Understand your deposit before you move in. A deposit is to ensure your landlord that you will pay rent and other responsibilities of the lease will be performed. There should be a process in place to submit requests when things need fixed. You nor your landlord are allowed to change door locks. It is illegal for your landlord to discriminate due to age, gender, sexual preference, marital status, religious affiliation, or ethnicity. Make sure your roommates are able to pay their part of the rent, as well as their monthly costs of water, gas, Wi-Fi, and other amenities. Make a budget sheet or a calendar so you know when to pay rent and fees. Understand where you are allowed to park your car, or if you'll need to buy a parking pass. Take into consideration where your potential home will be to your classes or work. If you're wondering when your housing inspection will be and what inspectors look for when checking your home, visit the City of Athens website to see the rental housing inspection schedule and the property maintenance checklist. Now, we sat down with the Athens City Director of Code Enforcement, Rick Serois, and asked him some questions that first-time renters may have.
What they really should be looking for is cleanliness and the overall appearance of, and what I mean by that, the inside of the apartment. Normally, most of these apartments, they rent the bedrooms out, so they're going to be having roommates that share the costs. So one thing would get to know who the roommates are, so you know how clean they are. Another thing is where the location is. Like we have the party streets, Mill Street, High Street, and the fests. So they should be aware of what that entails and the damages that may include when they're having the parties on the fests. As far as the apartment itself, make sure the smoke detectors are in, because what happens is sometimes the smoke detectors get taken down because of activities that are going on inside the apartment. Proper fire extinguisher is installed. Be aware of your exits. Note where the windows are, know where the doors are, how you can exit during a fire is very important. Also, it goes right back to, again, to your roommates. You're sharing this apartment and you got to know what they're doing also. For your safety, lighting on the outside, distances from a safe place or from the police department or things like that. These are small issues that people just tend to overlook because they're happy to get off campus and they're getting their own place. They can. but we prefer that they contact their landlords first and work through their landlords. Being is that the code is not always what the tenant likes. And I will say tenant because we deal with adults and not just students also. You know, students are adults, but sometimes we question either way. But the reason I say that is we always ask if you've given the maintenance person or the landlord the opportunity to repair or to fix your concerns. And then we go from there. Because all we're going to do is take the phone and call the maintenance person or the landlord to see if this is being rectified. Now, if there are issues that the landlord or the maintenance person hasn't done in a long time, again, we will ask if you contacted them because there will be documentation. And if it's cosmetic, that's not an issue. So for example, there's a hole in the wall and they repair the hole in the wall and they paint it a different color than what's on the wall. Well, that's between you and the landlord because the code doesn't cover the color of the paint. It covers the hole being repaired. Well, I'm always receptive to speaking with individuals concerning code because it's interpretation a lot of times and apples to pears to peaches. But we did a coffee with code and that was very good. It was very well received. And I do that upon request. Normally when student body changes, they come up with these different ways to address issues and they call them whatever. This one happened to be coffee with code. I thought went real well. And we also had some local residents attend. So they asked several questions there. Again, it's more of I don't schedule them, I get calls in and I schedule them with the students based on time. What we did is we revamped the form, we redid it, and we came up with this rather nice large poster form. And as you can see, it says the rental occupancy permit and compliance form. And what this does, it lists all the responsibilities, the immediate responsibilities of a tenant and the landlord, how to contact us. We even got real modern and put a QR code for them to scan with their phones. That was amazing to me in the first place. But it lists everything. And also one very important thing is the date that their trash is picked up. Now, who knows that? So these will be mounted on the landlords are supposed to mount them on the back of the doors, the main door, or on the wall close to the main door. So that way the tenant can read and see what their responsibilities are. In addition, it lists the occupancy level. So if they decide to sublet the rooms or sublet a sofa, they're not supposed to do that. So, and also lists the landlord's name or the property manager's name and their phone number for contact. So this is valuable information for the tenant.
If you have any questions concerning housing codes or rights, visit the City of Athens website or call the code office at 740-592-3306.